Okay, so hello everyone, it's nice to see you here. Let's get started because we have some delay. I will start with saying who am I, few words about myself. Then I will tell you what JBoss is, what Chef is, and then how would we manage to fuse them together, and what challenges did we had, and how have we solved it. And one more thing, the talk is called The Song of JBoss and Chef, but don't worry, I won't be singing. Okay, so who am I? You're probably aware of many articles how to do DevOps, what's good in DevOps, what's bad in DevOps. I remember one article which was about 7 signs that you're doing DevOps wrong. The first sign was that you have a DevOps team. So myself, I am a senior infrastructure engineer and I work in a DevOps team. Why I work in a DevOps team? Because it's a DevOps team in a bank. Right now it's an Alior Bank. Alior Bank at the beginning of this month merged with BPH Bank, which was previously owned by General Electric. And this talk recaps the last 2 years of work we done at BPH Bank before the fusion. Well, we are working with banking applications. Banking applications are not really DevOpsable stuff. They are often big, they are written in Java, they have a great amount of technical depth and history with them. And those applications do not like to be restarted suddenly. Often a restart needs a coordination between various teams of specialists. So, like you see, there are no microservices here. We are working with JBoss. JBoss is an application server, is a middleware which provides very useful functions like caching, database abstractions, clustering, authorization. So when you are writing application, you can stop thinking about reinventing the wheel and instead focus on your business logic. On top of JBoss, you deploy application itself. So JBoss is a middleware. Also, Chef needs no introduction here, I think. Chef is an automation suite written in Ruby compared to Java previously. And you configure Chef in recipes written in Ruby dialect. Having said that, how we managed to marry JBoss and Chef? Well, spoiler alert, it wasn't pretty. For me, JBoss is a perfect antithesis of a DevOpsable environment. And if you ever had to automate JBoss, I would be very interested in talking with you afterwards in the lobby. So why did we even care to do so? First, when we started, we didn't know that it will be so hard and so many obstacles will be at the road. But basically, we had to do this. We already have automated the lower levels of our stack. We jump-started our private cloud based on VMware environment. And we were creating virtual machines like that. And we needed to go upper. Well, my former boss, Paweł Bartusz, talked about all the challenges, political, organizational, technical, that we had to tackle when we introduced DevOps in a bank. You can watch his presentation on YouTube. That was the basic lower level of the stack, and we were building our custom continuous integration, continuous development pipeline, which also had a talk of its own by my colleague Waldemar Piszczewiat. And we needed to have better accounting of everything that happened in our environment. And well, our environment is not typical. This is a basic architecture of our JBoss cluster. It looks quite simple. There are load balancers at the front taking client requests. Then there are virtual hosts, which are JBoss instances when the actual execution happens. And there are domain controllers which control all the working of the JBoss cluster. The parts which are in white boxes are for HA purposes, that are backup load balancers and backup domain controller. And this is basically the building block of our JBoss Java application infrastructure. There are 6 virtual machines here. They all need to be working in synchronized state. And it's all managed by domain controllers at the bottom. If you look into the internet, you may find the tutorials how to automate JBoss. And all those tutorials only focus on a single JBoss with single application without any domain controller. And having a single point of control, the domain mode, was very important for us. So going back to those tutorials, you can run single application on JBoss, but it's similar to running a sports car on a first gear. And how do you think? How fast this pretty car, it's a Lamborghini Gallardo, how fast can it go on a first gear? The answer is 97 kilometers per hour, about 60 miles per hour, which is quite good, but it's still first gear. And there are 5 more gears ready to be used. So our goal was to use all features of JBoss to manage our environment. Like I said, I'm in DevOps team, which may not be the best solution, but it's only solution in the organization of our scale when we had to introduce DevOps. So we have 500 people in IT department, and if we broke all the silos in the one moment, there would be chaos. Everybody would be speaking to everybody, so it would be impossible to communicate. So we worked in such a way that we had a specialist from, for example, middle layer team, the people who knows JBoss ins and outs, and I was one of the persons contributing the automation knowledge. We have developers, we have internal developers creating our application, but we have also external third-party vendors. So if you think if you can outsource dev of DevOps, you can. This is what we do. And we had 2 goals. We need to have we had to make the delivery faster, make everything accountable, and well, we couldn't let external companies touch configuration of our servers because it wouldn't be secure enough for us. So let's immerse into technical part of this talk. How do you configure JBoss? Every non-trivial service needs to be told how to work, how to do its job, so needs to be configured. JBoss is far from trivial, and it's far from trivial to configure it, and it manifests itself at the beginning. How do you configure JBoss? There are 3 ways to configure JBoss. First is a web console. It's quite nice looking. It's an application that you connect with your browser. You at a glance see what happens inside the cluster. You can change the configuration. You can change the state, but it's not really possible to automate this. It's not that we can write a script that will connect to web console and do all the configuration. So other ways. Second way is by configuring JBoss is by using the command line interface. It works that way that you run some command, it connects to the domain controller of the JBoss, changes the states, and controls the whole cluster. And there is also a third way, which consists of few text files in XML format, one for the domain controller and other for other nodes. And this seemed like a best way to configure JBoss, because, well, in a DevOps, using Chef, creating a text files from templates is a bread and butter of DevOps. But it turns out that JBoss do not treat its configuration files as static. JBoss likes to rewrite the configuration files, so there is a struggle between Chef templates and JBoss runtime behavior. So we couldn't use text files. We switched back to using a command line interface. And another question, I said that we have vendors which provides us with application, and those applications have an installation instructions with them. Can you guess which of those ways were chosen by our vendors to show how to configure JBoss? Number one, exactly. We received installation instructions with screenshots of the web console and instruction, click here, click here, click here, and it wasn't really translatable to the Chef recipes. Okay, but we made a decision. We will stick with CLI. We took the configuration that was supposed to be done. We translated it into the text files in JSON format, and we put the JSON configuration files in a data box in Chef. So from this snippet of configuration, we map all the keywords to the CLI invocation, and we just run the command. JBoss configuration is changed during runtime, and sometimes JBoss answers to us. JBoss talks to us like that. Surprisingly, working with this part took the most work of us. Parsing JBoss output was important when we liked to check if the command succeeded, to handle errors, or even when we were trying to implement self-healing later. And there was also a second thing that was important for parsing this output. I will say about that later. Okay, so we started with that. We looked at that. We have some Ruby knowledge, and then we thought, hey, it looks like Ruby hash. Let's stick in eval, which we did, and voila, it worked. We received the JBoss output on the Ruby side in a hash, which we could traverse, which we could analyze, which we can work with that. It was so easy and so fine until one day it broke. This output broke our eval loop with helpful message that undefined is undefined. Well, Sherlock, it is. So we started it, start, and after some stirring, we had our aha moment. This isn't really a Ruby hash. The undefined is JBoss slang for empty set. So let's try it. Let's change undefined into the curly braces, and voila, it worked. So the output wasn't really a Ruby hash, but it was close enough. So we make the substitution, and all worked fine until someday another breakage. Looking at that, well, what's important here are hexadecimal numbers. The rest is just a decoration. And we thought, well, if it's decoration, well, we are not aesthetically pleased, so let's remove it fully. And it worked. We had hash again. We can work with that until one day, and you know what goes later, so I will spare you all the details. I will show you the final outcome in all its glory. I said it would be ugly. So, yeah. Probably your eyes are hurting right now and your head is spinning, but this is expected. This is how we felt after weeks and weeks of struggling with JBoss output. And we come out with this, which I think we should apply for a patent for or something, because it's really useful. And as ugly as it looks, we can still fix problems in this. I do not know how Bartosz found out that the star is missing in the middle of this strange line, but I think he should receive an Eagle Eye Award for life and big thumbs up for Bartek, because it was impossible. But during all that exercise, we started thinking, okay, maybe we are doing something wrong. Maybe this output format isn't so crazy. Maybe it's specified but awkward. Well, what to do in such case? Let's ask the internet. And we weren't first to do so. There are many such questions on the internet. So, key takeaways. It was asked 4 years ago. It is not answered. And third thing, Thomas thought that this is a simple question. Sorry, Thomas, it isn't. So after weeks and weeks of work, we were able to parse the output format, and with that came a big realization. We can dump the JBoss configuration at the beginning of the chef run, have it in Ruby, and only change things that need to be changed. So we were able to implement idempotence like that, and it greatly speed up our chef run. Running chef CLI command takes 2-3 seconds for each invocation, and when we have a couple, about 50 invocations during the run, there's a 2-minute delay just to check the configuration. So dumping the configuration at the beginning was a big speed up in our code. Other annoyances of JBoss. Well, like I said, there are 3 ways to configure JBoss: Web UI, CLI, and XML files. Those 3 ways configure the same stuff inside, and they use different keywords. So when we started and we worked with the installation instructions, we structured our data bugs as with the keywords which are seen in Web UI. But having to do configuration in CLI, we need to map from Web UI to CLI, and the mapping lists were getting bigger and bigger. So at one point we said, stop, we will store our data bug configuration in CLI terms. It was a big win, but it caused the need to migrate the configuration from the Web UI to CLI keywords. And it wasn't really done. So we are stuck with supporting the legacy code and legacy data bug format and current data bug format, which we can live with. Also, annoyance of the JBoss. JBoss likes to embed different data types like arrays, hashes, lists, one into another in the CLI invocations. So at some moment we got something like that in our command. So it's 3 types of braces to finish the line, which was very hard to go through the shell escaping and not lose configuration. Okay, so let's summarize and what lessons were learned from all of this. First of all, it really did work. You remember our basic cluster layout. This is one of our production clusters, and all the execution, all the applications run at the vhost in the middle. And one day we had so many requests that the vhost weren't able to catch up with all the requests. Even the biggest instances in our private cloud were unable to handle all the requests. So we decided to scale horizontally. Thanks to our cookbooks, we were able to go from here to double the number of vhosts in about 1 hour. So creating new virtual machines, installing operating system, installing JBoss, configuring JBoss, deploying applications, reconfiguring clusters, it all took about an hour. And most time was spent waiting for our security team to approve and open ports on firewall. But we are a bank, so you know, security. And before we had automation in the whole stack, such provisioning could easily take a work week. So 1 hour was instant. And last month at the systemd-conf in Berlin, people from Facebook said that their initial provision takes about 2 hours. So we are twice the fast as Facebook. What wasn't so rosy? You probably know Conway's law. It means that any organizations that design a system will produce a design which structure is a copy of the organizational structure. It happens in our code. We divided our cookbooks in three parts. One part was for team responsible for the lower level of the stack. Second part was for people managing the JBoss itself. And the third part was for application team. And the idea was that we in DevOps team will create the initial code, and then we will hand over the code to the teams, and they will continue with the development. It didn't really happen. Those numbers here are numbers of commits, changes made in each cookbooks. And I highlighted the names of people from the specialized teams, the teams which were supposed to carry on development. And like you see, most of the job was done by us in a DevOps team, and not much development afterwards. Maybe we create so good code that it needs no fixing. On the other hand, we also store configuration in a Git in Databug, so I was able to do the summary of Databug commits. And here we have completely different situations. So day-to-day working with the automated JBoss is massively done by people who are specialists in their field of view. Only in development there are most commits from us, from DevOps team, because well, we do the development and then guys keep it working. It had an effect that the specialized teams in their silos weren't so used to Chef itself, and it manifests itself in a problem with Chef output. This is a part of the logging from the Chef run. It says that Chef is beginning to execute something, and this something is updating property from one value to another. And the last few words say that it really didn't happen. This is the way Chef informs that it was going to do something, but because of some guard conditions, it didn't happen. When you're not looking at this every day and you just debug some problem on production, you see this execute, you build the mental model of what is going to happen, and at the end you have to scratch it because it won't happen. So this is the Chef annoyance, I would say, and it caused some confusion. But we have many clusters, many environments. They are all similar, but different. It's normal. So when we moved all the configuration into Git managed databugs, we were started being able to compare the clusters, what is the difference exactly between them. Also, middle layer team was able to prepare some configuration on the test clusters, tweak it, change it during the day. And when the configuration was ready, they were able to just copy and paste everything into the production cluster and have it working like that. Gone were the days of manual clicking in web UI to change settings and then forgetting that you changed something. Also, because of many clusters with the same applications, but in different versions, we started to see templates for the application properties started to diverge. So initially we stored the templates in cookbooks, but at some point we moved the templates to separate Git repositories, gaining, of course, history, accountability in the process. And we are creating the chef templates dynamically by checkouting from the Git. Okay, so this is how we manage JBoss in an Allure bank. Any questions? Yes?
Well done.
Nice presentation. First question, did you reconsider using other configuration management tools or something like that?
Well, we heavily invested in Chef. We have one person in our team which says that CF engine is best.
Okay.
And we are sold on Chef. We won't be changing that.
Do you use any other tools from Chef?
We use Packer, but we made our private cloud starting 2 years ago, so we made most tools by ourselves, and we are not using the stuff from Chef.
Okay, how about Test Kitchen?
We do not use it fully by everyone, but if anyone wants to, it's free to implement it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you shared anywhere the CLI messaging model?
Excuse me?
Have you open sourced that CLI messaging model?
I hope to do so. It's ugly, but we are proud of it, like an ugly child, and we will try to open source it in the future.
How strong is your dependence on JBoss?
Well, basically we started with proof of concept on WebSphere, WebLogic. Then we implemented the most of the stuff in JBoss. Also, we do the smaller implementation in Tomcat, and we are open to implementing JLooping support. So our cookbooks are quite heavily connected with JBoss and our organizational structure, but we have a know-how how to implement other application servers.